We can now bring in Renaud Foucart, Senior Lecturer at Lancaster University. Thank you for joining us here on France 24 today. We've had, as you heard in that report, some pretty horrific statements that Jean-Marie Le Pen has made during his life. He said that there was inequality. He believed in inequality between races. He defended statements he had made about gas chambers being a detail of World War II. Yet despite this, we've had a number of reactions that have come in from the political establishment here in France, including from the Élysée Palace, which says, and I quote, "History will judge Jean-Marie Le Pen's role in France." We had the French Prime Minister François Bayrou, who called him a fighter. Why do you think the French establishment is going out of its way to normalize this man?
It's very hard to imagine that if he had passed away 10 or 15 years ago, the reactions would have been similar. So I think at the time of the famous second round, where the entire country was in the street, where he got fewer votes in the second round, a smaller share of the votes in the second round than in the first one, he was the absolute embodiment of the evil politician. He insulted everyone, anti-Semitic, racist, homophobic, you name it. It's true that today, for many reasons, I think one of them is that time has passed. He's a very old, weak man. But also another one is that the ideas that he was defending, despite a complete change of tone, some of them have become totally mainstream. If you go back to what he was saying about the borders and the European borders and the need to be much stricter, including processing asylum seekers outside of Europe, at the time it was seen as being completely inhumane, racist. This is to a large extent European policy. No, this is what we are doing. So a lot of what Le Pen was standing for is seen as completely disgusting, immoral today. And I think Marine Le Pen has very well understood that she doesn't need to use the same kind of vocabulary. But it's also a fact that some of his policy have become mainstream.
How do you... What was it about Marine Le Pen's methods that that she succeeded in transforming the party that her father had founded, considering she is his daughter?
She is his daughter. She owes everything to him. So you need to remember how she became the head of the Front National in the first place. At the time, it was against the will of most members of the Front National. Jean-Marie Le Pen had to maneuver to make sure that she ended up being the one candidate pushed. It was really an equal contest. He really wanted his daughter to be in charge. And if you look from the outside, without going into the details of what happened in French politics, it's kind of striking that the party of Jean-Marie Le Pen had only a single surname candidate for every single presidential election. It's been Jean-Marie Le Pen, Jean-Marie Le Pen, Jean-Marie Le Pen, Marine Le Pen, Marine Le Pen. So it's really a dynasty. To many people, it's been kind of a business because every time a number two in the party became important. So at the time of Jean-Marie Le Pen, Bruno Maigret, and then Florian Philippot for Marine Le Pen, they were kicked out of the party. But Marine Le Pen managed to be much better, I think, in communication and being extremely strong with rooting out people who look too much like neo-Nazi, who look too much like homophobic. And also, of course, she's a woman. She's been surrounded by first very open gay people in her party. So she's not the scary old Nazi that the father might look like.
And Marine Le Pen, of course, does not court controversy, does she? She doesn't make outlandish statements like this anymore.
The way Marine Le Pen succeeds is by staying silent. That's how she always raised in the polls. And it's also very striking that in every single second round, being the presidential election or the latest parliamentary election, they really try to stay as silent as possible, to just find a few issues that are very popular, absolutely not racist, to fight for. In the subtext, people know that they are the hair of Jean-Marie Le Pen, the hair of the former Waffen-SS, but they are not talking about that. They are not saying anything controversial, and they only lose election when they go in the spotlight. So Marine Le Pen, she loses election when she goes to a debate. The parliamentary election was lost largely because the candidates of the Rassemblement National had to go on TV and to actually talk about policy. The success of Le Pen is being anti-mainstream, anti-establishment, but keep silent as much as possible.
Now, of course, there are some who fear, for example, let's talk about the anti-Semitic statements made by her father. Marine Le Pen, of course, doesn't go anywhere near those statements. Instead, she goes on to tackling immigration and the role of Islam. She talks about things like that here in France. But there are some French Jews who fear that the apple didn't really fall far from the tree. Do you think that she's camouflaging some of her ideologies?
I cannot accuse Marine Le Pen of being anti-Semitic because I've never heard say anything like that. So what people think in private, of course, it's very hard to imagine that this party, who is the former Waffen-SS party again, has changed completely, that those people don't believe in that. Of course, it's possible to think that, and I understand fully that the Jews in France would be scared about that, but it's also a fact that Marine Le Pen has been so cautious about her image and about what she says. I cannot even, if you ask me to name one thing that she would have said, for instance, about the Jews or Islam or gay people or anything like that, that would be different from traditional conservative in France, I don't think I could name a single statement from Marine Le Pen that would be more controversial. So that says a lot, I think, about her ability to play with the media.